What's going on, everyone? Mitesh here. And you know, it used to be pretty easy to decide what Android phone to get. If you wanted a super fast update and a great camera, you got a Pixel phone. If you wanted the phone with the best hardware, you got a Galaxy phone. And if you wanted something in between for maybe a little bit less money, you got a OnePlus phone. But in 2020, all of those differences have kind of shrank. And right now, all three of the companies have a phone that's right around $700. So in this video, I want to talk about the more subtle differences between the three phones, the Pixel 5, the Galaxy S20 Fe, and the OnePlus 8T, and which phone you should consider getting. Let's talk about it. Okay, so starting off with the specs, this is one of those areas where the differences aren't so subtle, at least between the Pixel phone and the other two. The Pixel 5 is rocking a mid-range Snapdragon 765 versus the big boy Snapdragon 865 in the other two phones, and they all have the option of 8GB of RAM and 128GB of storage, but the 8T does offer a 12GB of RAM and 256GB of storage option, which is the only one actually available in the States. The S20 Fe also has a 256GB storage option, but I think most people will be fine with 28GB because the Samsung phone is the only one that also offers micro SD card expansibility, so you don't need to buy more storage right away up front. Also, in terms of storage, Samsung and OnePlus are using the faster UFS 3.1 storage versus the 2.1 in the Pixel 5. So spec-wise, the Pixel phone on paper is going to be the slowest of all three of the phones, but I would argue most people won't notice it's slower until maybe like 3 years down the road. But there's no denying that day-to-day things like app launches will be slightly slower on the Pixel 5. And since the price of the three phones are similar, it's hard to say that you're getting a great deal with the Pixel 5. So in terms of pure specs, I would say it's a bit of a toss-up between the 8T and the S20 Fe, with the Pixel 5 definitely coming in last. Another part where the Pixel falls slightly short is the display. Now, all three of them have 1080p displays, but the Pixel is the only one that has a 90Hz display, whereas the S20 Fe and 8T both offer a 120Hz display. The one thing that the Pixel phone does have going for it is size. The phone is 6 inches versus 6.5 inches for the other two, so the display is a bit sharper, and the size is going to be a lot better for some people. Though, obviously, if you want a huge display, the other two are going to be much better for you. They all also have a hole punch cutouts, with the Samsung being center versus the OnePlus and the Pixel being left adjusted. The Samsung one also does have like a silver ring around the hole cutout, so it's going to be a lot more noticeable than the other two. Just something to note. So display-wise, again, it's a tie between the 8T and the S20 Fe, with the Pixel 5 getting a point for the size. All right, next up, let's talk about the feature that's important to a lot of people, me included: cameras. And the three phones take very different approaches to cameras. The Pixel 5 only has a regular wide megapixel sensor and a 16 megapixel ultra wide camera, which is only 107 degrees field of view. Whereas the OnePlus has four cameras: a 48 megapixel main camera, a 16 megapixel ultra wide, which has 123 degrees of view, and a 5 megapixel macro and a 2 megapixel black and white camera. So the only two useful ones, the wide and the ultra wide. And finally, the S20 is definitely the most rounded of the cameras. It has a 12 megapixel wide, 8 megapixel telephoto, and a 3x optical zoom, and a 12 megapixel ultra wide with 123 degrees field of view. Now, of course, it's hard to say objectively which system is better. You get technically the least number of cameras with the Pixel phone, but as with most Pixel phones, they're probably going to be the highest quality for photos. But if you want the most options in terms of framing, the S20 Fe is going to be great. And also, video out of the Samsung phones has been really good lately, so it's definitely the better choice if you're someone who's going to take a lot of video. The 8T is, I think, the weakest of the bunch in terms of cameras. Despite having, obviously, the most cameras, it's just not a very good assortment of cameras. In fact, if they could have just put the main camera from the 8 Pro in this, it might be different, but just the weaker cameras are the same as what we had last year in 17, with just more cameras that just don't help out that much. So if you're a photo person, I think the Pixel phones are the best, and if you're much more likely to take video, the S20 Fe is where you should go. Oh, and for front-facing cameras, it's the same thing. I really think the Pixel phones for photos, and definitely the S20 in terms of the video, because S20 is the only one that offers 4K video from the front-facing camera. Now, in terms of build materials, the 8T is a glass image like most premium phones. The S20 Fe, on the other hand, has a plastic back, and while the Pixel 5 is the weirdest one with an aluminum back coated in a bioresin. Interestingly, though, Pixel 5 does offer wireless charging even through the aluminum back, and even has reverse wireless charging this year. The S20 also has, say, the same wireless charging and reverse wireless charging, while the 8T has absolutely no wireless charging at all, which really sucks for the price. But what the AT does have going for it is the ridiculously fast 60-watt fast charging. That's going on top of your phone super fast. There's also a 4500 milliamp hour battery, which is gonna get you through most days, no problems. The S20 Fe also has the same size battery, while the Pixel 5 comes in with a 4080 milliamp hour battery, though I wouldn't worry too much about the battery life since the Pixel phone has a smaller display, it's only 90 Hertz, and then it's also got a lower power processor. So definitely in terms of battery life, I think you'll be fine with any of these phones. And finally, let's talk about software. So of course, these phones come running Android, but not the same version. The Pixel 5 and OnePlus 8T both run Android 11, whereas the S20 Fe is still running Android 10. Interestingly though, all three companies have promised 3 major version updates to their phones, though I guess for the S20 Fe that includes an upgrade to Android 11, so you're not gonna get Android 13, but on the other two you should, I don't know. But even though these 3 companies support these phones for at least 3 years, there's still definitely going to be a pretty big difference on when you'll get the updates on your phones. Now the Pixel 5, you'll of course get the updates on day 1 of the new software dropping, including for all 3 of the years. So even when Android 14 comes out, you'll get it day 1. Whereas OnePlus definitely will get Android 14, I'm sure. It just, OnePlus tends to be very slow at getting the latest updates to older model phones. So you might get it, but you might get it 6 or 7 months down the road. And then for the S20 Fe, who knows? I mean, they do say they're gonna offer 3 years of updates, but we'll just have to see because they've never done this before. And so yeah, we'll just have to see with Samsung what they actually end up giving us. And then finally, let's talk about price. So the Pixel 5 and the S20 Fe are both $700, whereas the AT is $750. Now, for $750, you are getting the 12GB, 256GB version of the phone, so it's not unreasonable. But I think for my money, the Pixel 5 and the S20 Fe are just more compelling options. The S20 Fe is for anyone who wants the most value for your money. You're getting great hardware and a good selection of cameras and pretty good software. Surprisingly, I think the Pixel 5 has a place for anyone who wants a phone that does everything really well, has fantastic cameras for photos, and gets day 1 updates guaranteed. And the AT, on the other hand, while still a good phone, misses out on some of the great things with the lack of wireless charging, the mediocre cameras, which are now table stakes for this price range. So of course, this is just my opinion. I would love to hear what you guys think about this down in the comments below. But with that, that's pretty much it for this video. Like this one if you liked it, subscribe if you guys loved it, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye.